back to the Virginia School of Traditional Arts. We've got a unboxing, and we're going to put this cement mixer together and give you a review. This is a Central Machinery cement mixer. It's 3.5 cubic foot. It's sold by Harbor Freight. It's all metal as far as I can tell by looking at the one in the store, and that's what we were interested in. We're not going to set this up for a cement mixer though. We're going to use it as a tumbler, a poor man's tumbler. We're going to see how that works. I do a lot of blacksmithing, and I'm looking for some way to clean little parts, smaller pieces, without me having to clean every little bit of it. So I want something to work automatic. I've seen this done with other folks, and we're going to give it a whirl. We'll tell you what we think about it. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to set it up. You can follow these steps up to a point, basically all but the very last thing, and put your cement mixer together. The only difference it's going to be is I'm going to not use the paddles that come with this that would usually stir your cement. I'm just going to put in some square bar of some variety just to stir up my media and try not to hang my little parts. Anyhow, you'll see that at the end. Separated out the pieces as I unboxed them. They had them pretty separate as they were packed, more or less. These pieces were on the top. The wheels were all the way in the bottom, but the other bigger pieces were all on the top. I've got them laid out here on my table. I've got our bolts and nuts. I've got a cup for those. I've got the bigger tank part over here and the various sundry parts that make the tank up. Looks pretty simple to put together. We're going to give it a shot. It took me maybe 5 minutes to unbox it. It's taken me longer to get my lights and fan and stuff hooked up. These are the pieces that I'm going to not use. These are the pieces that you would use to mix mortar. I'm going to make something much shorter and to fit along the edge of the barrel, and I'm going to use that to stir my medium. The medium will be pieces of metal to make them clean themselves. But that would be the only difference between this, what I'm going to do, and mix and mortar is you would use these pieces. Alright, I watched a video about a gentleman putting one of these together. He didn't show all the steps, but he said he had trouble with the bolt identification, so I was going to go over that with y'all so y'all understand kind of what they're doing. They have the bolts numbered. If you look on the very back, kind of like the second from the back page, it's got a big diagram, got all the bolts pictured microscopically, I might add, but it's got a chart on the opposite page, and it tells you in words what each bolt is. It'll say like number 69, hex bolt, and then tells you about a flange nut. A flange nut is this. It has it's like a built-in washer on one side of it. Basically, you have some really small bolts, and these were in 2 different bags, so I kept them separate. This is the first bag over here, and I really didn't separate those out as much, but they were in one bag, and I'm assuming they're going to be, these little bitty ones are going to either be for putting together the tank, which is what I think they're for, and these big washers are for the wheels, looks like. But if you'll separate out your stuff, then you can kind of count how many bolts you got and how many holes you got, and you can see, what's up. That may help you some. And the length of these is important in some cases. This is kind of an oddball. This is a heavier bolt than the rest of them, and I have 1 nut for that, and 2 fairly large flat washers, so I haven't got to that point yet, but I would say those things go together. Then we have 2 that are not quite as long as these. These are shorter, and these are a little bit longer, just a little bit, and the same with these. These are just a little bit different. If I had a suggestion for Harbor Freight's people that make the directions, make a life-size scale model picture of each element of the bolts especially, and label them that way instead of giving you the tiny little pictures. and then the words, so you could lay the bolt up to the picture. This is the right bolt for this area. just a little food for thought. And then you've got your flat washers, a couple of sizes, and then your lock washers, and then you've got flat washers over here, and these are 2 flat washers. And I haven't really looked in this dish yet. I hadn't got all that out. But this will give you a method to the madness, so you can figure out what you need. In deliberation, we've modified our statement initially. In this kit, I've kind of separated them out here and put the nuts with them and washers with them. But you have 4 bolts that are 65 millimeters long. You have 4 bolts. These are the 4 that's 65, 60, and then 55. And I had to get me a millimeter ruler because I don't do much millimetering. And I'm going to tell you the truth, I don't know why I didn't put the same length bolts on all of them. This one's a little fatter. But to put these are the 2 sets you're going to need to put the base together. There's only 2 like this that have threads all the way up. Those 2 go from the ends in, and the other 4 go from the side across. And so we'll show you that. Maybe they'll work. So it looks to me like you need the longest version of these. I think the 65 millimeters, even though that's not what it's called for. Get it. There you go. That went through. Yeah, you're going to need the longest bolts that you have. Not the description is not correct. Get the longest bolts that you have. Save this fat one, and use them to put the sideways holes together. And of course, put your flat washer and then your nut. And I'm going to put them all together before I tighten them up to make sure I got it like I want it. And then there's a shorter one that goes this direction. We'll see if it's these shortest ones like I was saying or not. Maybe, maybe not. Those seem to work. The ones with the threads all the way up. Alright, so we got that together. I'm going to go ahead and put this other piece on. This is your handle light. It just goes down there and then we'll bring it back. Alright, I just did the same thing in these 3 holes. Now we're going to just tighten these up. So this should take just a second. Fortunately, they're all the same. He said, no, those are not the same. I think that's some crap. Don't even have the same size head. That's a bunch of bull right there. That's bigger. Again, Harbor Freight, use the same bolts. That would not have hurt a thing. You didn't save a nickel by doing that. Use the same size bolts for all of this. Would not have been an issue for any of it. Now, put the wheel on, you drop over your big washer, you drop on your wheel, you put the other washer on, you stick your Carter Cream through here, and then you bend it with a pair of pliers. Not provided, of course. And you don't have to go crazy bending it, just enough where it doesn't fall out the hole. Just enough so it doesn't fall out the hole. And we'll do the other side. There's your first sub-assembly together. Alright, we got some pieces right here that are zip tied onto it so you don't lose them. And that's the next part, is we got to put this apparatus onto the base. And so the first step is we're going to cut these zip ties loose. Cut the zip ties loose. And there are differences on the end, on the arms here. This is the end that takes the arm, and that's the end that takes the motor. And according to the picture on the box, this end goes over the foot, not the wheels. So we're gonna put the end that's the arm, that has a smooth pipe and a hole in it for the arm to grab to, over the wheel, over the leg end, not the wheel. So we'll see if we can get that accomplished. Perhaps. It said with assistance, but at the moment I don't have any assistance. We'll try that again. With assistance. There she went. Alright, this slides on the top, and then you gotta line up the holes and put some more bolts in it. So we'll figure out what bolts are next. And then you'll have to do your arm on this end. Reading the directions again, the bolts don't seem to match what their directions say. So what I've done, I had two in that, the biggest pack of bolts you get. We've used most of those putting this legs together, and so I've used the longest of the shorter ones, if that makes any sense. There's like a set of long ones that's like 3 different size long ones, and then there's 2 different size short ones, links. And I've used the 2 longest ones. I put a lock washer, then a flat washer, and I just tighten them up now. And this is your arm control. This is what controls your arm. Makes you be able to dump. Now, it's got a spring for this thing, and so far I haven't figured that part out. The picture absolutely sucks. Absolutely, it's no good. You can't even see the spring. It's got an arrow point to the spring, but it doesn't show the spring or what it's attached to, or how it feels, or nothing else. And it's just a little spring. We'll keep wondering what it's going to figure that part out. We'll get these snugged up. And some of the bolts on the legs down here, they're the right length, they're all the right length and the right diameter, and they work. But the heads of them are different sizes. Uncalled. The heads of the bolts are different sizes. Okay, so we got that on. This is the bolt for it. This is the biggest bolt you get. Go through there. But I'm not sure what to do with the springs there. Maybe it goes up in here. There we go. Now we're starting to put the grease. What we're dropping the floor. Okay. Now we're starting to grease up. Good punch. Alright, yeah, it goes up in the handle. No one can't see it. Alright, things make you go, Took me a minute to figure out where the spring went. It actually goes up in the hole here. And there's a little bar they've got welded in across through there that holds it. But the next thing is getting your bar off your arm on here and lining your hole up and all. So you've got to press down on the spring. Get one side. You get a flat washer on it. This particular arm, the holes in it are almost too snug. There, this barely go in there, but it's almost too snug. Push on it. Good. Looks good. Alright, we got her going in. Push down on it and see if I can push it through. Trouble with pushing down on it is you push on the bolt.
Oh, I see it. It's almost
Almost come through. I can see the bolt. Trying not to tear it through. That's a pain right there. So almost too small. Almost too small. Tap, tap, tap. Screw up the threads. Got a flat washer and the biggest nut back on here. There's a good bucket. this piece down, lock washer, flat washer, and it's got the threaded holes for it doesn't have nuts on it really. And then this one has the biggest, longest bolt, thickest bolt, and a flat washer on both sides and just a nut, is what it's saying. And that spring is up in this hole. And so if this thing's operating, you can tilt it, catch you another spot to make it run, so forth. So we'll tighten this up. Work on that, I guess, the next. Like if you have small children in the room, you may have to get them to leave because this looks like it's going to make you pretty cuss. We've got to supposedly use this gasket. And it doesn't say whether to put the flat side up or down like this or over, but I assume since this has a lip, I'm going to turn it where it looks like it's a notch in there. I assume that. No guarantees. And then we're going to attempt to put the bolts up through this and put them in this rubber. Somehow, without it falling all over. Alright, do yourself a favor and get you some tape and tape them bolts up. That'll help you a whole lot. Help you a whole lot. Now my gasket feels a little dirty. I'm playing with it. Alright. I'm going to lay this thing down flat because that seems to be the easiest way to do it. That's what I'm going to do. The bolts have tape on them so I can't push on them a lot, but I can push on them a little bit. When I'm applying my gasket here, I'm holding up underneath the bolt. Turn the gasket flat. Seems to be it. And just for giggles, I'm going to put a little tape on that too. Just so I can keep it on there in somewhat of a normal orientation until I get ready to take it off. This is going to help me get it onto the base. Alright. So we'll see what we do over here. Here's where the cussing comes in. Now I've got to line all this up without pushing the bolts out. This is going to be the tricky part. We'll start the nuts on it, and then we'll just reach inside and pull those pieces of tape out before we tighten it all the way up. We'll get the nuts started first. But that's a good trick, because you'd have never done that without the tape, and it does not tell you to do that in the directions. And also, see, it says to use some kind of sealer, probably a caulk version or something. I don't know. It says it in the directions. Not provided, of course, but if you're just mixing concrete or doing what I'm going to do, this will be perfectly fine. It's not going to, once you tighten that down, it's not going to run water out of it. And even if it does initially with the concrete, it'll seep in there and stay. You won't have no problem with that. You can put some nuts on those, nuts and washers. Alright, we're almost done. This is saying to put this cover on. Now when this came, the motor was actually bolted with one bolt and a piece of plastic strap on it that held it to this. You got to take that bolt off in that plastic to get it separated. No biggie. Then we're gonna put this on here. This thing has too many sizes of bolts. It's ridiculous. You don't need all that. Pick a size, stay with the size. So far I've had 5 sizes of wrench. 5. And the bolts are virtually identical. I mean, they're one slightly smaller than the other, slightly longer. Could have picked one size bolt and stuck the whole thing together. And after a while, I just got tired of reading the directions. It didn't make any sense, really. Yeah, they're not the right bolts either. Okay, let's see if we can find the bolts, because they'll be tricky. These have to be done. Again, with the hole that's just, I'm sure mathematically it's the right size, but it needs to be a hair bigger for the bolt to fall through. Just some practicality stuff on this will help with. Yeah, just ever so slightly. Somebody that's been out of the class for more than a minute organize this for the help. See, we've got 14 wrenches out here. It's outrageous to have so many different types of boats. I had to recalculate a little bit. Last night I was getting tired and I stuck this plate behind here and put little short bolts in it. And I also had this thing turned like this, and that is definitely wrong. And when I did that, I got it to fit and everything, but it just didn't have any support. So we're going to put it on this side of capturing this post and use the longer bolts. And I think that's the way it's supposed to go. I just was getting tired last night. Won't paying attention, I guess. Make sure this bolt will start, because this don't act like it's wanting to start. Yeah, it'll start. Just gotta hold your mouth right. Because we want some adjustment on this doohickey. We want this thing to be able to move up and down, tighten our belt. So that's what we're after. But we want it to be firm too. We don't want it to be sloppy. And the tolerances on this is just ridiculous. No need for it to be this snug. None whatsoever to be as snug as it's got. Ridiculous. It says to use a flat washer and a lock washer, but I'm just going to drop off and see if we can just get by with the lock washer, because it's sucking up so much of my bolt. It's not wanting to do right. I'm going to loosen these ones at the top too, because they seem to be. A little wiggle room. There's a little bit of wiggle room. It's not where. Now we'll see if we can get both of them together. bolt sticking out. Alright, we ditched the lock washer too to make our bolts long enough. We'll see what that does. That's about the right length. Alright, after much struggle, we got that loosely done. I had to loosen these bolts up here that hold this piece on, so I had a little more wiggle room. And it'll give you a whole lot of cord on these things. There's a motor sitting in there. And that feels, even with just that, not even tight, that feels a lot better. Then last night it was feeling pretty loose. There's some bolts here. Get through. Alright, we'll start on the side. We can reach about that. This thing being in your way, that's the way it is. Anyhow, we'll put these, we got flat washers and lock washers we're going to put on this thing. On each one of these. With the belt a little bit, make sure everything's lining up, and then we'll tighten everything down. That's great. Again, with the tolerances on these things are just outrageous. Hardly giving you enough room to put the belt through. No need such tight tolerances on machines such as this one. Alright, we want to make sure our belt is straight this way, so you're working on your motor in and out to get that, and then you want to put a little downward pressure on your, once you get your motor in the right place, put a little downward pressure when you tighten up the bag. So we got just a little tightening up to do. A little tightening up to do. But 40th wrench here. Alright. We'll call that close enough. I guess it's straight. Much closer. I'm going to start by tightening up these bolts I loosened in here. Roll this, everything wants to spin. Taking it off. Got them too tight. Now we're going to look at the motor really good. Make sure this thing going to run pretty true. There we go, the ratchet now. I thought I was going to be down to the wreck again. Making sure my bolts aren't coming out so far. they'll rub the belt, which is not going to be good. Not rubbing, but it's close. Not rubbing, but it is close. See, that thing got plenty of length now that you got it tight to have your washers on it. Alright, it's not rubbing. And now we're going to tighten up the motor. He says he's going to tighten up the motor. Apparently not the right wrench. That's the right wrench. Hit it one time, alright. Almost too tight to get the bolt through. All right, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Alright, they've got 5 holes here for you to put bolts in. I'm just going to put 3 in it, and then they'll see if I need to adjust anything. We'll turn it on, make sure everything is running right. We'll put the last couple bolts in. Alright, need some power. We're about ready to try this. About ready to try. Alright, let's see if we got her all together or not, I guess. Alright, I hope that's helped y'all. I've not used this at all yet. I'm going to put some pieces inside here that are solid or square kind of pieces tight to the sides here, and I'm going to use this as a tumbler, and we'll maybe report back on that in the future. If you were going to use this for your concrete, you would use these 2 pieces and have these so that they would go in holes on the side here. And I'm going to use those same holes to put what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be this. Couple of things. With the bolts, it's annoying, but you can work your way through it. They have, with the larger bolts, the longer bolts, they have one that's really long longest and fattest, and that's for the handle. The other ones, there ain't a whole lot of difference in them. To be honest with you, they probably could have got away with using all the same bolts. But the heads of them and the nuts of them, sometimes, at least in my pack, were different. I mean, it looked like the identical bolt, but there's a different size wrench you needed to do it. It's same diameter, same length, different size wrench. Very annoying. As far as the rest of it, let me get y'all in here where y'all can get a good look at this. This piece right here is what I struggled on last night. And what I had done was put it against this back, and that's incorrect. Capture this leg with it. I was getting tired, and I was wanting to be done, so I was going to rush it a little bit. But that's all you need to do. And I would put the lock washers on this. I just couldn't get it to operate the way I would like it to, so I didn't put the lock washers on it. We'll run it a while, see if we'll keep an eye on it, make sure it's not going to fall apart. As far as time to put this together, with my video, y'all should be much faster than I was, because I was sitting down there having to figure those bolts and all that stuff. The bolts to put the framework together were pretty self-explanatory. I mean, other than they had different lengths, I don't know why. And this little piece down here made me struggle a little bit because I put it in the wrong spot. But other than that, pretty easy build. I have about probably 2.5, 3 hours in this, and that's with me reading every bit of the directions and trying to hurry and having to get all my stuff out and film and everything. So I would say if you just stuck with this and watched this video first, you'd have a hour and a half, 2 hour build at the most. Do the tape trick with the little bolts here. That helped a whole lot. That was probably the best tip I could show you. Otherwise, this is a metal version. Harbor Freight sells a plastic version, slightly larger, but more, like $100 more. And I didn't see any, I didn't look at it that much, but I didn't see a whole lot of difference as far as quality. I'd much rather have a metal thing for this, even concrete. If you're going to mix concrete, I would suggest spraying the inside of this with WD-40 and all your metal tools with WD-40 prior to you mixing anything, and that'll allow it to clean off at the end. And you can clean it back off to perfect metal if you'll do that. With all your tools, your rakes, your shovels, your trowels, do everything with WD-40. But we're going to set this up for a tumbler for cleaning the mill scale and the dross off of small parts, and we'll see how that works. Alright, we're going to adapt our cement mixer into being a tumbler. So what I've started with is I've got me a piece of cardboard. I'm going to use the original holes that they already have in here to bolt my bars in, but I need to know the inside shape of this. So I'll take a piece of cardboard here, got it to fit down in here mostly, and so that it will give me some idea of what shape to start with. And I'm going to leave it a little long, that way we can always bend it some more. But we're going to start with that. We're going to make this out of probably like 3/4 or 1 inch square tubing initially, see if that'll work. That's what I've got. And you could use angle iron if you had that, something else, solid bar if you had that. And you could always just lay a couple pieces in here and weld it. I don't know if this is going to work 100%, so I'm going to bolt it initially. And then that way, if it doesn't work, I can take it off easy If it does work, I may put a couple welds on it to make it permanent, but we'll see how it does. Alright, show you what I came up with. I took my piece of cardboard that I showed you how to make. I laid it on my steel welding table and I drew with a chalk around it, soapstone around it, and I made this piece basically to match the cardboard. The better you do your cardboard, the better this will match. I had to do a little super adjusting on it a little bit. The welding on it is terrible because this is fairly thin stuff and my machine doesn't do thin as good as it probably should. And it's probably the welder too, me. But I attached some little ears on it, and this is just like 3/4 inch hollow tube. And that's just because that's what I had. If you had solid, it would be good. Probably be a little easier just to bend it hot, but I didn't have that, so we cut notches here and welded them back. And so now we're going to install it in there, and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, that's what our bar looks like installed. Now, I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but I've got a long screw sticking out here. That's the only one I had long enough with threads all the way down to tighten up, because this had a gap in it. I couldn't use my little short bolts, but I'll trim this off. If you're going to have anything spinning, certainly don't have it long sticking out. But that's what we've got. It's not pretty, but all it's got to do is turn over the stuff, turn over your scrap or whatever you've got in here that's making your media. Nuts would work really good, like bolts and nuts, small bolts and square nuts would work really good. I'm just going to use whatever scrap I've got. I'm not going to buy anything for this until we prove the concept, but I may eventually buy some kind of media for this, but we'll just start what we got, see if it'll work. I only have one of these installed right now. I'm going to make another one. I haven't done that, and then we're going to see if we can get it to turn today. All right, I've installed another paddle, I guess is what you call these, and I made that one out of angle iron, much easier to do. It's not as robust maybe as the square, but it's much easier to bend and do and weld back. Sure, this is going to make a crazy loud noise, but we'll see how it does. Those look like they're in there good enough. This isn't but a probably quarter or less bolt there, but that's what I had. But we're going to trim these off and get this going. Alright, I took the last several hours and cut me up some scrap metal. In doing so, I cut out some leaves. I'm making a bean leaf or a bean vine sculpture with the next sculpture. It needs a bean vine on it, so these are the leaves. And what I did, I took my little small scrap pieces that I keep, they're 1/8 of an inch thick, and I cut out the leaves. But whatever I had left that wouldn't be a leaf, I cut it up to approximately, an inch square or smaller. Some of them are a little bigger, but that's what I'm using for medium. And so I've got about 50 leaves in there right now, and we're going to turn it on and see if it'll do what it's supposed to do. We'll see. Alright, here's what they're looking like after maybe 30 minutes. You can definitely see it's cleaning it, because there's a few darker streaks here and here. Hasn't knocked all the burrs off yet, but it's got most of them off already. And so that's doing pretty good. I did have a little trouble. After about 30 minutes, this cover fell off. I just happened to be standing here when it did it. But the little bolts they gave you with this weren't very long. Seemed to not have lock washers, at least that I used on them. And so I put a little longer ones in, found some lock washers, and I did a little insurance here in case these rattle loose again. I've got just some wire through 2 of the holes to keep it from falling off. This holds your electrical connection, so if it falls off and pulls down, it could start a fire or tear it up at least. And so we're going to turn it back on and let it roll and see what else we can get done. But right now it looks like it's working pretty good. I've got it pretty much laying down here almost flat, not quite. And it seems to be holding on, you know, my material in here. I don't see anything out here on the ground. So I think we're just going to turn her back on and let her go. But it gets a little dusty, so wherever you put this, make sure you don't care if it's dusty in there. Alright, been running about 3 hours, more or less, maybe just slightly less than 3 hours. That's what we got. Most of the dross is gone. I mean, just ever so slightly, still a little bit. And that's what it looked like before. So, if you can see it in the light, certainly cleaner. Certainly cleaner, it's shinier. And most of the dross is gone that's on the cutting. So I'm going to probably let it run another hour, but I'm going to do that tomorrow. Alright, quick update. I ran this for 3 hours the very first day I got it going. And it worked pretty good, I thought. Worked pretty good. But come out this morning, the very next day, turned it back on, and it turned on and ran about 2 minutes, and then quit, kicked the breaker. So I'll reset the breaker, did that twice. So I put a cord on it that didn't have a ground, so it wouldn't kick the breaker, and the motor just quit on me. So we're going to take it back to Harbor Freight and see if we can get another motor. Hopefully they'll stand by their product, since I've only had this about 3 days and only used it for 3 hours. But I have right much stuff in here, as you can see. I mean, that's no more full than the mortar would be, and I would say that's probably equivalent weight. But I'm going to try emptying it out, and we get a new motor. We won't put quite so much in there, and we'll see if it does better.
I went to Harbor Freight and told them about my motor not lasting but 3 hours and then basically frying, and was hoping just to exchange the motor. They wanted me to bring the whole machine back, and they would have exchanged the whole machine and gave me a new machine that, of course, you'd had to go back and put back together. And I expressed my displeasure at that, and that didn't seem to bother them at all. And so what I did is I went and bought a different machine. It's the same machine, but I bought it at a different Harbor Freight. In fact, my wife bought it, and because she was going out of town. And so I brought it to the house, took the motor out of that package, put it on my machine that I already had together, of course, and took the other one back thinking I could just return it. You know, it wasn't hurt other than the motor was bad. And so I did that. Well, they had a restocking fee of over $50. They said they'd exchange it for free. Well, I certainly didn't need 2 of them, especially with one of them broke. But anyhow, I paid to let them screw me out of the $50 because I wasn't gonna put it back together again for $50. Anyway, I have since took out about half of the material that I had in there as my media. So I've probably got about 20 pounds of media in there. And then I've put right many leaves and different things in there that I've cut out. So I probably have a grand total of about, I don't know, between 50 and 60 pounds of steel in there. And instead of just turning it on and letting it run like I did the first day, I've run it for 30 minutes at a time, approximately, and I limped it along to get done with what I had to do immediately. I will, however, be looking for me a better motor. That motor that comes with it's a 2/3 of a horsepower motor. I didn't even know they made such a thing. But I'm going to look for me a horsepower motor, or maybe even a horse and a half motor, so I can turn the thing on and let it run. The rest of the machine is fine, but the motor is not much. So if you plan on doing what I'm doing with it, um, might need to plan on finding you a better motor. I don't think the one that comes with it's going to last very long. Uh, I did see another gentleman on YouTube that touted this thing, and I don't know how he hopefully his motor did better than mine, but mine did not last at all. Um, I hope this video has helped y'all. If it has, please like and subscribe. Um, I'm going to do some more updates in the future, see if we get a better motor, where I get that kind of thing. The motors with used to be fairly cheap on like Amazon, but you need something that's not a compressor grade motor. I'd like to find a farm grade motor, something that's built for outside, something that's built for dust, um, so that I can park this thing outside my shop and let it run um, outside where I'm not having to listen to it so much. I hope this has helped. Hit that like and subscribe for me, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.